Go on to a public hearing, which will begin at 6:23 p.m. This is a hearing to dispose of public ground, the old middle school property. The City of Perry previously agreed to sell a portion of the old middle school lot to Hamlin Bell Associates LP for the development of a senior living residential project. It has now become necessary for Hamlin Bell Associates LP to acquire less land for the project as described. A parcel of land in Block 8 of Foster and Heaton's addition to the Town of Perry, an official plat now included in and forming a part of the City of Perry, Dallas County, Iowa, being more particularly described as follows, and I'm not going to go into that long description. We're talking about the old junior high property on Willis Avenue, right there at 12th. And a couple of things. I had Mr. Rafferty, the attorney for this group, Newbury, called today, and he said, "Do you think that I really have to be at the meeting tonight?" He said, "It's very important to us, and if you say yes, I'll be there." I told him I couldn't foresee any problems, and he did want to let us know a couple of things. One is that if anybody did want him to be here, I could call him and he would try to get here by the end of the meeting. I don't think he can really make it that quick from Des Moines. The other thing was that they did in fact pull that tank that was a topic of discussion at the last meeting, as they had agreed to do, even though it won't be after this if everything goes like it should. It won't be part of the final deal. It's gone, and they did test the ground underneath it, and it was clean. So those two items he wanted to let us know. Is there anybody else who has anything on this matter or would like to contribute to it in any way?
I just want to make a couple comments about what you just discussed, the old gas tank. I didn't really want to challenge the gentleman as he was presenting it, but I was fairly certain that, you know, somebody knew something about an old gas tank at the middle school. So I talked to the school's maintenance director, and he didn't recall. In fact, he told me that he had to talk to a transportation director, a former transportation director, about where it might have been located. But it did generate a memory of mine, and that's why I was a little confused about what he was talking about. Back when I was superintendent of schools, my first or second year, I believe, I had a letter from the DNR that said, "You have an old buried tank here. It's filled with sand and gravel. This is your notice that it's been tested for years. It's off our books. We're closing it out. It's done. You don't have to do anything with it. It's over and done with." And frankly, I just put it out of my mind. I didn't give it another thought. But, you know, when a DNR signs off on something and says this is not an issue, this is not a concern, I'm not following how somebody said that it had to be taken out.
Right, and you know, and that's exactly why I think that the tank was unknown, because for all practical purposes, it was an unknown item. It was an item that had been dealt with years and years ago and signed off on by the DNR, and if the DNR says that it's okay, why would anybody question that later? So it just became something that nobody paid any attention to or really knew anything about since that time. I guess who it makes a difference to are people who give grants at the state, who probably don't know anything about a gas tank, honestly, and people who lend money towards any property that might have a gas tank in it. I think that's probably a summary, and those are the ones that required further investigation.
Well, frankly, I had completely forgotten about it until this whole issue came up, and I knew that there was something that had come across my desk at one time, and that was it, and I was like, how can we be talking about this when the DNR has signed off on it?
Yeah.
So, anyway,
So the good news today was the tank is gone.
Yeah.
And it was clean underneath, so we don't ever have to be questioned about it again. So
it is kind of a sad commentary when another governing body says that we're not accepting, you know, a Department of Natural Resource decision.
Right. Although probably more common than we care to admit.
Yes.
The left hand never seems to know what the right hand's doing.
Right. Any other comments on this matter? In that case, we'll call the public meeting closed at 6:29 p.m.